What if I told you the reason you're exhausted isn't because you're weak? Is it because you've been strong for too long? Not physically tired. Not I need a nap tired. I'm talking about that deep, silent exhaustion where even small tasks feel heavy. Where replying to a message feels overwhelming. Where you wake up already drained. And here's the disturbing part. Most people don't even realize they're burning out until something inside them breaks. But what almost nobody talks about is why emotional burnout happens in the first place, and the psychological trap that keeps you stuck inside it. Stay with me because the real cause isn't what you think. By the end of this video, you'll understand the hidden psychological patterns silently draining your energy, and why the people who look the strongest are often the closest to collapse. Imagine this. It's Monday morning, your alarm rings. You didn't sleep well, but you pushed through. You go to work, you smile, you perform, you meet expectations. Inside, you feel numb. You tell yourself it's just stress. But weeks pass, months pass. The stress doesn't leave. You're irritable. You're detached from people you love. Things that once excited you now feel neutral. This isn't laziness. This isn't a weakness. This is emotional burnout. And here's the twist: burnout isn't just about working too much. In 2019, the World Health Organization officially classified burnout as an occupational phenomenon, but modern psychology has expanded the understanding. Emotional burnout doesn't just happen in offices, it happens in relationships, in caregiving, in ambition. I'm constantly trying to be enough. It happens when your emotional resources are depleted and you never refill them. But why does that happen? The psychological mechanism behind burnout. Let's simplify something powerful. Your brain runs on energy, not just physical energy, emotional energy. Every time you suppress frustration, every time you fake a smile, every time you say it's fine when it's not, you spend emotional currency. Psychologists call this emotional labor, a term popularized by sociologist Arlie Hochschild in the 1980s. It describes the effort required to manage and regulate emotions to meet external expectations. Now here where it gets dangerous. When emotional labor becomes constant. When you're always the strong one, the reliable one, the calm one, your nervous system never truly rests. Research in the Journal of Applied Psychology has shown that chronic emotional regulation increases stress hormones like cortisol. Over time, this leads to emotional exhaustion, the core component of burnout. But that's only half the story. The real trap is psychological identity. Have you ever noticed how some people are proud of being busy? I'm just wired this way. I work better under pressure. I don't need rest. We live in a culture that glorifies productivity and resilience. Especially if you're between 18 and 40, this is your building years, right? Hustle, grind, prove yourself. But here's the paradox. When your identity becomes the strong one or the high achiever, you stop listening to your limits. Your brain starts associating rest with weakness. Slowing down feels like failure. So even when your body whispers, you ignore it until it screams. Psychologist Christina Maslach, one of the leading researchers on burnout, identified three core dimensions: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, feeling detached or numb, reduced sense of accomplishment. Read that again. Burnout literally changes how you see yourself. You stop feeling like you. Have you ever felt that? Like you're functioning but not fully present? If you have, comment "I feel this" below. I want to see how many of you recognize this pattern. Now let's go deeper. Burnout isn't just emotional, it's neurological. When stress becomes chronic, your amygdala, the brain's threat detector, stays hyperactive. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and focus, starts losing efficiency. That's why you feel foggy. That's why small decisions feel overwhelming. A 2021 study in Nature Reviews Neuroscience found prolonged stress can physically alter neural pathways linked to motivation and reward. Translation: things that used to excite you don't hit the same spot anymore. And that scares people. They think, why don't I care anymore? Why am I so numb? But numbness isn't apathy. It's protection. Your brain dulls emotion to survive overload. That's the hidden psychological secret we teased earlier. Burnout is not failure. It's your nervous system trying to protect you. Here's something most people miss. You can be successful and burn out. You can be smiling and emotionally collapsing. High-functioning burnout is common in ambitious young adults. You meet deadlines, you show up, you perform. But internally you feel empty. Because burnout doesn't always look like quitting. Sometimes it looks like pushing harder. And that's why it's so dangerous. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you rested without guilt? Not scrolling, not multitasking. Real mental rest. Type in the comments, "I deserve rest," if that statement feels uncomfortable to say. Because of that discomfort. That's conditioning. Burnout often hides a deeper belief. My worth is tied to what I produce. If you grew up praised mainly for achievement. If love felt conditional. If validation came only when you performed. Your brain learned something powerful. Work equals safety. Achievement equals approval. So you overextend. You say yes when you mean no. You take responsibility for everyone's emotions. You carry invisible weight. And slowly, you disappear inside your own effort. That's the real tragedy of burnout. It disconnects you from yourself. Now here's the part most videos won't tell you. Burnout isn't solved by a vacation. You can take a week off and return to the same psychological patterns. Real recovery requires 3 shifts. 1. Redefine strength. Strength is not endurance without limits. Strength is recognizing limits. Your nervous system needs cycles, effort, and recovery, just like muscles. 2. Separate worth from output. You are valuable even when you're resting. Even when you're unproductive. This sounds simple. But psychologically, it rewires years of conditioning. 3. Emotional honesty. Instead of suppressing feelings, acknowledge them. Research from psychologist James Gross on emotion regulation shows suppression increases physiological stress. Numbing emotions, on the other hand, reduces amygdala activity. In simple terms, when you say, "I feel overwhelmed," your brain calms down. Try it this week. Instead of "I'm fine," say what's real. Remember the question from the beginning. Why are the strongest people often the most burned out? Because they don't give themselves permission to stop. They survive everything, they handle everything, they carry everyone. But survival mode isn't meant to be permanent. Burnout is what happens when survival becomes a lifestyle. And here's the empowering truth. Your exhaustion isn't proof that you're incapable. It's proof that you've been capable for too long without support. Let that sink in. Imagine a version of you who works hard, but also rests deeply. Who achieves, but doesn't attach identity to achievement. Who shows up for others, without abandoning themselves. That version isn't lazy. That version is sustainable. So here's the question I want you to sit with. If your body and mind are sending signals, are you listening? Or are you waiting for a breakdown to force you? If this video gives you clarity, like it. If you felt seen, subscribe. And turn on the notification bell, because we're building a space where psychology isn't just theory, it's a transformation. And before you leave, tell me in the comments, what's one boundary you need to set this week to protect your energy? Because burnout doesn't start with collapse. It starts with ignoring yourself. And healing. Healing starts the moment you decide. You are worth protecting.